Welcome back to our conversation with the Regional Administrator for the Environmental Protection Agency, Dave Cash. Dave, you mentioned your boss, Michael Regan, a moment ago. He announced last week that the EPA is going to delay plans to boost air quality standards for smog and so forth, pushing any changes past next year's election. President Obama did the same thing, postponing tougher standards till after his re-election. You know, clean air advocates are up in arms over this. Is politics being prioritized over public health?
No, it's not. These regulatory efforts are incredibly complicated. And once we put out our draft rule, and just to remind folks, this is called the Good Neighbor Rule. Basically, what this is saying is when you've got power plants in parts of the country where the prevailing winds bring that pollution to other parts of the country, and I will say New England is at the end of the line. So Connecticut has bad air pollution. Most of it is coming from New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, et cetera. So we put together a really good package and, thousands and thousands of comments. And so our staff needs to go back and figure out how to do the analysis to take into account these comments, and often it takes a huge amount of time to do that.
What's the nature of the pushback? Is it about economic impact?
It's partly about economic impact, absolutely. But I mean, if you're saying, are we shying away from the tough fights? Absolutely not. I cannot tell you all the regulatory packages that have moved forward to make people's airs cleaner and to address climate change. At the same time that we're saying we're going to regulate this way, here's some funding that can help you get there.
Okay.
We're in a moment here that has never happened in this country where we can pair our very exciting regulatory agenda. I know most people might not think regulatory and exciting go together, but with funding that can help companies, families, communities, states get to meet the standards that are required so that we have healthy communities.
Well, speaking of economic impact, when you were last here, we spent a good deal of time talking about what were then pending new rules from the state about home septic systems, mainly down the Cape and the South Coast, and how these new systems were needed to prevent the destruction of estuaries, shellfish beds, and so forth. And we talked about the huge financial burden this was going to put on communities and homeowners. Well, since then, the state came out with its rules.
Yes, it did.
And some modest funding to help out, to help pay for this. Problem solved, or is more needed, and if so, what?
Problems on the path to being solved, which is something that no one has ever been able to say until now in terms of the problems on the Cape, in terms of nitrogen and other nutrients that, as someone, I know that you go to the Cape, I go to the Cape, so many people in the Boston metro and from all over the world come to the Cape, and they see these bays that are clogged with algae, with seaweed that normally wouldn't be there. We're seeing cyanobacteria, harmful algal blooms in ponds and estuaries and bays that we've never seen before. So the problem has never been addressed. Great first step by the state, and there's federal funding from the bipartisan infrastructure law that's moving forward to help as well. So this is a great step forward. So problem solved? No, but on the path in a pretty substantial way.
I heard at one point during the debate over these rules, I believe it was a state senator from down the Cape said that back in the 70s, the feds offered communities on the Cape something like 95% reimbursement if they build wastewater treatment plants, which would have, fast forward to today, individual homeowners wouldn't have to pony up 45 grand. And they all said no.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I don't know. I don't know that story, but I can certainly say, what you're saying just makes me think of this moment we're in, where we're about to make a lot of investments and in clean energy and clean water. And I'm sure hoping that in 30 or 40 years from now, 50 years from now, folks look back and say, thank goodness the federal government finally stepped up with the state to make all these investments so our air is cleaner and we addressed climate change.
We're out of time, but if people want to find out more about what your office is doing, perhaps comment on issues that are coming up, how do they do that?
So easy access on our EPA website, and if you're interested in New England in particular, Region 1. So it's EPA Region 1, Google us, you'll find out a ton of information there.
Look forward to having you back again.
Absolutely.
In another 6 months or so to update us.
Sounds great.
Thanks a lot. Dave Cash, Regional Administrator for the Environmental Protection Agency. That's all our time now. It's back over to my colleagues at the anchor desk.